Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Market Moves. I'm the Wizard of Ops. Jay, how you doing?
Good. Wiz, how's your weekend?
Oh,
We had a big rivalry here in the DMV area, the Ravens and the Commanders. Looks like Maryland's got us, for another year at least whenever we meet again.
yeah. Well, they looked good though. The Commanders looked all right, and yeah.
It's
No,
good to
my
have a
weekend
throwback
was my weekend was skibbity. All right.
Looks like a good one with the kids then.
Whatever that means. That's what it was.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway, so I guess let's jump in. As I was talking about on my morning tweet this morning, I was talking a little bit about SPX because I wasn't expecting SPX to really advance past 5,800, and I was thinking 5,850 would be like an extreme. But we started looking. Friday, obviously, we jumped past 5,800, labored a little bit toward the top there, 5,820. Kind of came down a little bit toward the end of the day, but ultimately we looked at the Vana hedging toward the end of the day just to see. We looked at our Vana heat map, which we don't have historicals on, but I kind of posted like a heat map on Twitter.
Yeah.
And notice that like November, the implied volatility in November is extremely sticky. Yeah, you see this is our Vana heat map. I guess November would be right over there. That first, is that it right there? What does it say in the bottom?
November 1 is going to be somewhere right here.
Looking for November 15th.
15th is going to be right here. This
yeah. So that row right there will lit up positive on Friday. And I said, how is that possible? I mean, VIX is down, what's going on? And the real reason, again, VIX is a 30-day measure. It's kind of a calculation that CBOE uses. It's most of the time, it's pretty reliable, but there's a lot of intricacies about that calculation that could throw it off. And one of them is this election. And the event vol for the election is not isolated to election day. It starts on election day and goes all the way out, all the tenors after election day. Before election day, implied volatility is like 16, 17. After it, it's 2021, and it's like a cliff. Like you just go cliff across. And after election day, implied volatility, it's just erratic, especially in the November timeframe. It just sometimes it's going up, sometimes it's going down. It's completely uncorrelated right now to the market, but the market is now following that implied volatility, so it's feeling very erratic. It could go up, it could go down. I still think it would be a lot to breach 5,850, but at this point in time, if it keeps getting very erratic, it could happen.
Yeah.
However, once the election's over, once that implied volatility comes down, I think that's, I'm getting the sense that that's probably when we'll see some downside volatility. But that's just my thesis. And it does throw a little wrench into some of the Vana things that we will discuss. But a lot of the things that we will discuss will come before election day. So I don't know, Jay, what do you think about that?
Yeah,
no, I mean,
this is a tough place to be at, right? We follow price here with trade plans, right? Level to level. But we do have certain rules like the aggregate Vana trend. This is not healthy, right? Looking at it going into negative territory. So while price definitely has floated a little bit higher, it hasn't been as easy, right? There have been, if we look and go out here, just last week they, created another new low volume node in the ES and even ESPX for that matter, right? So not only options but shares as well. They're just kind of buying every single dip that's out there. And if we kind of jump into even like this week with the SPX, I mean, there's resistance above spot. Like this is why I'm just not comfortable with calls right now. Like I will play them intraday. I'm not swinging them at this point in time. I'll take my profits, right? But I mean, here's that 58.50 that you're kind of talking about, right? And yeah, there's some magnet there, but we have gamma, we have low Vana, we have a bunch of geopolitical news, and then you have the elections, right? So it won't be easy for the next month. Personally, myself, I'm going to be taking more intraday trades for the next couple of weeks. I have started a swing short in case we do get that sell. I'm, hedged correctly in the market is how I would look at that, Wiz. But yeah, it's not an easy one. But thankfully, we have the data in front of us here that still showed us, hey, if we do go higher, we'll be going higher into this zone. So today's a big day. I want to see how price reacts a little bit, or even to tomorrow as well.
Yeah, one thing I would consider, and this is like kind of the positioning that I will have on, is even though it won't look very good on your Thinkorswim or Tradier or IBKR or whatever platform you use, when you get the P&L line, it won't look very good. But if doing like out of the money calendars or diagonals where the short strike is election day, which is low vol because you don't, by the time it expires, you don't know who the president is or what's going to happen. So on election day, you sell that option out of the money, and then you buy beyond election day, maybe November expiration, something like that. That implied volatility is going to go haywire. You may see some even red days if that implied volatility drops, but we haven't seen any evidence that it's going to drop. It's pretty sticky. If anything, it climbs. So it's going to look a little weird. You just kind of have to like ignore the P&L and just have your price, like you said, your price levels be your guide. But if selling that strike right before election day, or on election day, I guess technically, that to me is a winning strategy, because while the market may be a little bit erratic and kind of, it's not going to move a ton, but it's going to, normal resistance and support might not hold as strong. But if it's way out of the money, I mean, you could profit off of something like that.
Yeah, especially with that volatility. I mean, just buy some VIX as well.
Well, no, you can't, because VIX is already elevated, so they already.
Very true.
Yeah,
it's very true. It's not going. I mean, I was looking at the VIX here in Volland too, and it's just amazing. I don't know if you've seen the Vana here on this thing. I mean, look at it. Look at the positioning where customers are at. You got a big pull here at 25 and at 42 and a half.
Is that Vana?
That is
Vana.
Yeah.
I look at the gamma side of that, because
here you go.
Most of them are short gamma. Yeah, so see, dealers are long gamma, which a lot of that is short positioning by customers.
Yep.
And they're basically saying, the election's going to have a decline in VIX, pretty much, they're saying pretty much guaranteed. Look at those spikes right there. If it doesn't, there are going to be problems.
Yeah, they're
going to be problems. And, because they're short vol here and they're short vol in SPX.
Exactly.
So or short gamma.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of short gamma out there, and it's going to be wild when that implied volatility starts, getting very iffy, because as soon as if the market starts coming down, that implied volatility is going to spike. They're going to have puts are going to have to get bought. You're going to need an over VIXed drop, and then all these VIX calls are going to be, short calls are going to be, exposed. So there's going to be several levels of exposure there that will have to play out. But probably not before election. Then we might get some hiccups this week with OPEX, but
That's what I was
Probably
just
not
going to
before
say.
election.
There might be some weirdness a little bit. It's a low catalyst kind of week, right? We've got,
Mhm.
if I remember looking at our, let's just look at our news calendar here for just a minute on the
Mhm.
weekly. I mean, if I was looking at this, remembered right, like, yeah, today we've got a
Mhm.
few Fed speakers. The UK
Yeah.
has some jobs data tomorrow, and then we've got Empire State Manufacturing Index. If you look at it, it's not really until Friday where we have, Thursday, where we've got US retail sales. So that's the biggest catalyst on the week.
Yeah.
That's not
Well,
really a catalyst, right? So what is going to
yeah.
move the market up is where I'm getting at. Like, what is the catalyst that will move the market up? Maybe Netflix
Yeah.
earnings Thursday. I don't think it's a single mover, but
Well,
yeah,
that's a great segue because the one thing that you could really position yourself for is things that equities, individual equities, that have something before election day, and this is going to be earnings season before election day. Um, this week we have Netflix and TSM, I believe, right?
yeah,
So let's check out Netflix because while earnings are at its core a fundamental catalyst, options and Vana determine, they are a huge indicator of which direction the price will go. How many times have you seen, some earnings report come back and they're like, oh, they missed earnings and they revised down. And then you go look at the price and it's up or it's not moved or, because it's already on its magnet or something like that. No, I privately traded it, but JPM, I had a trade on thinking it could possibly hit 225. And so I had a vertical there, and that's all Vana. I mean, yes, JPM had good earnings, but did it have much better earnings than it did last time? No. Like, and they also talked about increasing their loss allowance for credit cards. So I was like, it's not like great news. Pre-market, it was down, right? And
yeah,
then all of a sudden the market opened and that Vana hit. So earnings are actually a really good time to bring in Volland. Next week we'll have a guest talking about earnings, and so this is a good time right now. Let's check out Netflix. What do you got for us, Jack?
Yeah, so I've got the all expiration Vana here, and I mean, obviously this 890 strike here that stands out quite a bit, but that is a hell of an implied move for Netflix if we think we're going to get to this 890. Realistically speaking, I'm kind of this 770 makes sense here to the upside, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got a little bit of a magnet here. And obviously to the downside, 700, 690 here potentially are some support zones. So, I mean, if you look at this right now, just from a purely Vana, I'm not going to get into Netflix potential numbers or earnings or subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
You think that we're going to lift up, right? Is a little bit of what I would think, but I don't like it here to the upside.
Are these
Honestly.
are these predominantly calls overall?
That's let me flip them over. Let's look at them.
Because so the thought here, and the other thing to look at is clearly because of that 890 strike, which somebody bought a ton of calls on.
Here's your
That makes
calls.
aggregate Vana negative. So I think that if if Netflix earnings turns down, or it seems like it could turn down, and all those to underneath price are calls. If those are all calls, which I guess they are, that could create a gamma effect to the downside. So Netflix, I might consider. I would look at Netflix kind of bearishly.
That was exactly once I started to break this last night down by calls and puts, like that's what that stuck out to me as well, Jason, right? And then this is just a calls view. Here's the aggregate Vana trend. And I know it's not the same thing as SPX, but like still data behind this. It's still important in my opinion, right? Now, not to use it fully the same. So you are in negative Vana territory. And if we look at the cumulative exposure here as well, I mean, there's not a lot of support here. You know, like 712 goes on this thing, and this is pure sellers here, right? And then
Mhm.
if you get to the upside, there's not a lot of upside, right? There are sellers here sitting and waiting as well, in my opinion. So when I start to look at this view of it, I'm aligned with you. I look at a bearish Netflix earnings. Maybe guidance is what will come down is maybe the potential here, but I'm with you.
Usually they're like subscribers, but regardless, I mean, it doesn't even matter. Even if subscriber base goes up or something like that, it
Well,
seems like
this is
Netflix
well,
is a.
remember, this is I think now the first or the second earnings for Netflix where they're not reporting subscriber numbers anymore.
Oh, really? I see. I didn't know
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be a weird one anyway, this earnings.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. um. Yeah. So let's see. We this time we're gonna take some requests. Maybe we'll check out, see if the especially if there's earnings nearby. Did you do TSM?
No, I was going to say, you want to, before we take the request, you want to pull up TSM
Yeah, let's
and
look at
we'll
TSM
put
real
that
quick.
together. All right, let me switch this back to put some calls for just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's our Vana. You want to go?
Sure. So this also looks like it's aggregate negative Vana. Is that big, huge red stripe? Is that a call?
Let's take a look. Boom. End calls. Why? Yes, it is.
Okay, so once again, we're going to be looking at negative aggregate Vana, but see again, this is that big, huge strike right there. Those calls, and this is covered calls at this point. So honestly, I think after what is that strike? I can't even see it.
This is a 175 strike right here.
So I think 175 will turn out to be a magnet here. Because once you go down to that strike, then Vanna flips to be positive. We could go down to like 170, but then it'll be almost like 175 is the sun, and the price will be one of the planets just going around and around and around it until it expires. So I kind of think 175 is a magnet for TSM.
Yeah, I would agree with you here. Pretty good support here. This one feels like, let's see where it is before its earnings, but wait it out and trade it after the earnings. I think you're going to get a better trade and risk reward. The premiums will have decayed by that time as well. So TSM might be, I'm going to put this on my watch list actually for post earnings. So thank you for that one.
Yeah, I mean TSM's got that. They take all of SMH with it, right?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of I mean, Nvidia's looking pretty bullish last week. It was up what 6% on the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see how the others do. I want to quickly take a look at, and you kind of nailed it. The aggregate Vana has been trending down. The common theme across the board, right? Aggregate gamma or Vana is down. We look at the exposure here. Same thing. You've got some support here up until that 177 that we kind of 175, right? So like I said, I would not trade TSM purely even before its earnings based on some of this data. It's not looking like a great trade to me until maybe post earnings. So that's another just call out there. And then obviously it's gamma here. We didn't take a look at that, but 195 and this 175 for kind of the big pillars from a dealer gamma perspective as well. So you're right in the middle of it.
This is a good time to talk a little bit about gamma, because what gamma is measuring is it's like an accelerant for delta, right? It is measuring how much delta is going to move with moves in the underlying. Delta, of course, being the hedging formula for dealers. So, as delta goes up or down, dealers will hedge up or down. They'll buy or sell accordingly. it's been almost like observed, prior to Volland in like the gamma exposure community, I guess you could say, it's been observed that high gamma is a stickiness kind of thing, right? But that doesn't really make sense, because if you have high gamma, high like absolute value of gamma, then that means delta would be moving more for every point. You would think it would be more volatile if you have higher gamma. And but the observed behavior is high gamma means sticky and slow. So they just say, oh, high gamma is sticky and slow. And I had a couple questions where people say, can you talk about the gamma impact? And really, the stickiness is because of Vana. I mean, if you go back to the Vana strike, Vana is the delta moves based on implied volatility. So when you get toward these strikes, these big strikes, when price is on the strike, Vana is 0. When it is above or below, that's when you get these big bars. So this bar right here is an in the money long call for dealers, so customers are covering this for calls. It's going to be high gamma because dealers are long the strike. So because they're long options, whether they're puts or calls, is positive gamma. So, but Vana flips the sign. Right now it's negative, but if price were to go below that, it'd be positive. And implied volatility is still going down. So it's going to be an effect where it just kind of goes back and forth, because the sign of Vana, and Charm for that matter, flip up and down. And that's because of, and why you ask why that is, it would be because if you're in the money, a call expires at 100 delta. So the implied volatility going to 0 means it gets closer to 100. It's going up. But in a long call that's out of the money, the expiration delta is 0 because it's worthless. So, if you have like a 40 delta call, 30 delta call, that's going down to 0. But at 56 or 55, 60, above 50, it's going up to 100. So that sign flips. And that's what the whole magnet pin strike thing is. It has nothing to do with gamma. It has everything to do with Vana and Charm, implied volatility changes. So anyway,
Yeah,
I don't know.
funny, I think I saw on Twitter a couple weeks ago someone posting a gamma, not Volland, but it was, even worse. But they're talking about gamma being like magnets and flipping, and I'm like, oh no, you need to come into our Discord, please. Let us show you the ways.
Yeah. Well, I understand we're a culture change. I mean, we've analyzed a lot of these data things that don't make sense necessarily, or have odd or spurious assumptions behind them, and that's kind of why Volland is so much more reliable, the data behind it anyway. I guess, do we have I don't know if we have any requests right now.
No, I mean, for now, I want to look at United Airlines.
Put up requests. Well, yeah, United Airlines has earnings coming up too. Put up requests while we go through United Airlines. We'll do, Daniel will help you out next right after United, because United is UVXY. All right, we'll talk about UVXY in a minute.
All right, here's United. For the folks, let's just quickly look at its aggregate Vana trend. Holy cow, right? It was red for quite some time. We look at it.
Price been going down? Yeah, look at that. Price has been going down for quite some time too.
Yeah, price has been going down too. Yep. If we look at the cumulative exposure, I love this. We're in our kind of buy quadrants, is what I'll call it, right? We've pretty supportive here below spot. A little bit of resistance, but clears way, and we can really get going on this. So let's look at the Vana levels. I mean, from a gamma, just quickly, Wiz, anything you want to call out here? I mean, obviously, this is a big wall.
Yeah. Well, what this looks like to me is, I mean, you said United Airlines. Again, I don't keep track of every single stock, but United Airlines price has been declining. You said. So
yeah, let me show you the chart here.
Okay. It seems like there's a lot of put support. No, it's been going up. So for some reason, I guess, customers have been buying puts on United Airlines. I guess I don't know if it's an expectation of failure on the earnings, or just some kind of standard mandated work there. But it seems like it's very supportive. There's a lot of puts underneath, not a lot of calls sold above, which is interesting. So
Yeah, if we go to Vana here, I was looking at that too. I mean, look at this. These are customer puts here, right? So
yeah,
uh
and
this
those
is an
the red
interesting.
above is, yeah. I mean, that's an interesting long. I'm
Yeah,
writing that one down. UAL, interesting long. And then we have TSM and Netflix. We are
bearish.
looking at downside, bearish.
Yep. Yep. Wow,
All
this was
right.
an interesting one. I like this. It's not often you get a Vanna profile called profile. I'll use that word very loosely here, like this. I'm sorry, I'm imprinting this in my brain so I can come back to it and research it. But let's get to the requests.
Yeah.
So I
So
think we've
anything,
got. Go ahead.
yeah, UVXY, anything involving vol will be very difficult to measure because of the election. I see somebody, yeah, like UVXY, VXX, even like the SVXY. Yeah, all of those are going to be very difficult until after the election. As we saw on VIX, I mean, you could put it at UVXY and we could just check out the positioning just to see what customers are doing. But yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag. I think which is kind of expected. Um, I think anything vol related I would stay away from until like right next to the election. Um, and I think that because of the lack of support underneath for SPX and its negative Vana, I have a feeling that vol will go down and then up. And when it goes up, it's going to shoot up, 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 up. And that's because of all the short vol positioning in VIX, the short vol positioning in VX futures, and technically, really, the short vol positioning in SPX. So, but again, that's a little bit less Volland related and more what is going to be the behavior after the election. So it's a little bit more speculative. Don't have as much data on that other than knowing how people are positioned.
Yeah, and really quickly, while we're at it, just SPX. I didn't get to go through my normal weekly analysis here. So Jason, let me just quickly do that before we go to our next sticker. So as Jason said, 5,800 here is on the week. I mean, we even got close to it overnight, if I remember right. We got about 58.10, 58.05, which is another supported level. So we technically overnight hit the supportive area here, and we're kind of fiddling. If I'm looking at the charts, we're about 58.30 SPX right now, so that's roughly 58.74 on the ES. So we're here at this resistance, right? So I would look at today here a little bit later how 58.30, 35 reacts. You got maybe a little bit push up to 40, but I'm going nowhere near this 50 strike, 58.50 with calls. I want to be out of it. I don't want to be close to it. And it's just odd that we have it in a week with earnings, the big 58.50 strike. So until I see this change, I'm a little bit more bearish, not on the week per se. I mean, in general, I've started a swing position, as I mentioned, but 58.50 is a magnet, but there's some resistance, some support. Let's see how 5,800 kind of cleanse throughout the week. But on the week, watch 5,800. Above, you got to stay bullish, but we might be chopping up and down. Below it, you're going to start seeing some sellers come in, is how I look at
Yeah,
that. So
yeah,
your
5,800
thoughts
is a
there?
call too. So,
Yeah.
but overall, though,
Yep.
I think it's going to be very difficult to really, you'll be to really have like a firm trade plan. I would be nimble and size down because of the vol after election.
Yeah.
But anyway, what's
Yeah.
what's our next request? What do we got? Oh,
SoFi.
SOFI.
All right, let's jump into that one. That's been a little bit of a darling fintech company over the past few years. So Let's see what Volland is telling us. So, I mean, let's just maybe quickly go down. I mean, aggregate Vana
So
trend
far.
looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Cumulative exposure. Anything you want to call out here? I mean, this is pretty supportive up until seems like $7, $8, 7.5.
Honestly, it looks like we are going to hit this magnet at that big, huge, whatever strike right above there.
Yeah,
That's a magnet, and we might poke above a little bit. What is that? What price is
10.
that? 10. Yeah, that's probably we're going to stick around. That's a good butterfly because I think SoFi has like high implied volatility, so that might be a good weekly butterfly / condor kind of thing around 10.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit above 10. Maybe do 11 if you want to leave some room, but or unbalance your butterfly a little bit bullish, but yeah, that looks like a sticky one for me.
Yeah, this is a massive one. I mean, especially for SoFi doesn't have as much options activity, so
right. But it also doesn't have any liquidity in the equity either. So, I mean, it doesn't take much to push it. But all right, what else do we got? We do have bonds. We do have TLT. Now, here's the thing. Like, while he brings this up, bonds obviously is a lot more complicated than options on an ETF based on bonds, right? But I mean, the positioning, the whole no arbitrage principle, if you believe in that, kind of states that whatever happens in here would happen in the futures and in the rates environments as well. The largest, I don't know if you knew this, Jay, but the largest open interest options, right? Notional. What do you think they are? What do you think it is?
Probably the bond market, TLT, or SPY? No.
The answer is SOFR futures on SOFR futures has by far the highest open interest and notional.
For both, really?
They go back. There's hundreds of thousands every expiration all over. But
interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, but that being said, and we're going to be gathering data on that as well. That's a very exciting area for us. But regardless, we could look at TLT real quick. Is this TLT Vana?
This is TLT Vana. Both puts and calls here is what you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, it looks just like SPX.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. This is like the 5850 big magnet here, which is 95. The 5800, which is a 90 here on the TLT. I mean, how even 92.5 is going to be a little bit,
I know TLT has had a little bit more bearish activity too. So I guess
if we look at the I mean, this does not look so happy.
Yeah.
Upside down smile, right?
Yeah, it looks kind of like the same as SPX. And if there is a drop, an over VIX drop, TLT would participate. And that's because over VIX drop a lot of times comes from liquidity problems. And, like somebody, some hedge fund blows up or something like that. And if those you have a liquidity problem in the options market or the equity market, it permeates throughout the rest of the market. So, so I mean, TLT, I would almost treat the same way you would treat SPX.
Yeah, it's not very clear, and you got some resistance above you. Just be careful with that one as well. All right, so
anything else? We got 34 minutes. So we still got how do we interpret the commodities ETF? What? No, we did. We've been on for 34 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, all right. You want to take this one?
Which ETF? Which commodity is he talking about?
I think in general, like, I mean, for those, there's multitude of different commodities out there.
There's like a commodity index.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would treat them just like any other ticker here in Volland, right? That, is there options data is a big thing I look at. Commodities is a little bit tougher because of the futures, right? Be a little bit careful there with futures action. I'm not a big commodities trader, Jason, so I don't want to be the one speaking to this question. Do you have any opinions?
I mean, a lot of time, I mean, most commodities, I mean, they do have some ETFs that we do have, like we have GLD and stuff. I know that's a metal, not a commodity technically, but you're right though. Most commodities are in futures, and futures are coming to Volland. We have bought, ES futures, and NQ futures. It's coming to Volland. We just signed an agreement with CME, getting their data, probably in like 60 days or so. It's going to be a part of our feed. But yeah, commodities, oil, energy, gold, whatever, it'll be rolled out slowly, including rates. It'll be rolled out slowly. We have yet to decide how we're going to handle as far as, because they cost a bit of extra money. So we probably have to charge for those separate things. But and it's coming from a separate exchange. So it's a little bit easier to delineate them from like the equities and stuff. But yeah, it's coming. Probably early next year, it would be my guess. But again, I don't want to, don't hold me to that, but that's probably the timeline that we're looking at.
Agreed. Okay, great. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait for ES futures and NQ. So
yeah, well, NQ futures, we have QQQ and NQ futures. They have the big like open interest there, but NDX, the index, does not. And there's reasons for that. I mean, it's because there's one exchange. They kind of have the monopoly on it, like SPX does. CBOE has on SPX. It's a phalanx in Philly, but they also have one market maker, Susquehanna, doing the trading for it. So Susquehanna, as a monopoly, they can make the spreads as wide as they want, and people know that, and they don't want to buy it. So. So they stay away from NDX index, and that's there is some traffic, but very small. All right, go ahead. Yeah, I saw Tom said he likes to play SMH. Typically, with the leverage long and leverage short, we have them in Volland because they have a lot of option traffic. But I tend to stay away from those. I don't know how you feel about that, Jay.
I'm the same. I like to stick to the main. Call it ETFs, right? So if I'm going to take an option or a trade on SMH, it'll be on SMH. It won't be the 3x long or short, for example. I can just size if I believe in a 3x short or long.
Yeah, you could bring up SMH, but I kind of doing like a leverage, like one of those 3x leverage kind of vehicles to me is almost like fentanyl in your option drug. But then you start using options on 3x leverage, and you're like, you're in a league all your own. You probably got, just wear your medical bracelet, right? Just wear it all the time. Don't even don't even cut it off. Just wear it all the time. Those are and honestly, like, other than that, they are primarily retail products. So you won't see a lot of institutional traffic. It's a lot of speculative traffic on those. Yeah. But SMH, you will find some institutional traffic, and they are more mandated, predictable. As much as they are, the smart money, they are very predictable too. So I mean, it's kind of easier almost to read what institutions are doing rather than retail. So looking at SMH, this looks a lot like SPX. This looks like a lot of everything else. Not a lot of puts.
Looks like a B of A here almost on the Vana itself.
I mean, it's not a lot of puts. A lot of calls being sold. So it looks like there's a little bit more upside room in SMH. But I'm pretty sure TSM earnings are going to figure that one out too. So, and TSM earnings, I think what we had was I have that as like a pin just below price, so it might not even affect SMH that much. SMH probably then will slowly advance up, and
if we kind of look at its cumulative exposure here, I mean, it's not I personally myself would not take this trade long. I mean, yes, you're supportive. I might look for a failed breakdown and wait to buy the dip, quote unquote. So maybe that's the trade I would look at in SMH. But yeah, like we could run into what is this 260, 262-ish kind of areas. Like, yeah, we could go run into them. But again, you're even on the week, look at the week, right? Until I see this change, resistance, right? So like while they're magnets and they're resistance until they pivot, right? So I would want to see this data change, but to me, maybe I take a short on this. Like if we reject 260, like, yeah, can we come back to 255? But the R&R on this one is not looking so hot, in my opinion, is how
I think if anything, if you do go up, it might outperform even SPX, but it'll be a slow crawl up until some liquidity drop, or even like components. So one of the components, like TSM, I think might not be the cause of it, but I don't. When we get to Nvidia earnings or something like that, we could look at that. So,
Agreed.
All right, I think we could take like maybe a couple more. We just read Charm in the last hours of the day. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I mean, I'll help here. I think maybe they're asking, is it best to look at Charm just at the end of the day? And no, I mean, looking at Charm in a zero, I mean, I've got my Charm widget here, but I look at this on a zero DT because Charm obviously plays the larger effect as you get closer to expiration. Nothing is greater and closer to expiration than a zero DT, right? So I will use this as a guidance. That's why you see it in one of my top widgets, especially if I'm playing intraday. You have to have Charm, right? And Charm to me is very, very important. I mean, what it says here is we have a potential shot at 58.40, right? So I'll take a look at that outlook. Doesn't mean I'm going to fully put every one of my trading dollars on it, but I'll use it for my analysis whiz is where I'm getting at. And it'll guide me at least on anything zero DTE kind of intraday that I'm looking at doing for sure.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, it's with SPX Charm, because it has zero DTE, you should only really be looking at zero DTE Charm. It will, Charm goes to infinity as the day comes to a close every single day. It goes into billions and stuff. So really you can, if you're swing trading, you can glean everything you need from Vana. Charm is a little bit, you're on, other than on the zero DTE time frame, you're not going to get much more value from Charm than you would on Vana. On the zero DTE time frame, it is fantastic at giving you bounds, and especially if it's like what we call like a paradigm where people are buying calls and puts on both sides, buying puts, selling calls, or buying calls and selling puts. Those are the way Charm works is it gives you great bounds. Typically recently for like the buy put sell calls, typical JEX kind of environment, but negative Vana, we tend to kind of go hit that lower bound and bounce, or hit the lower bound and bounce. That seems to be the pattern every day. Where that lower bound is, you don't know until the day starts, because that's when all the volume comes in. But that's the time frame to look at Charm. Before that, if you're swing trading, like we do, you can use Vana. So
Agree. It's a Charm for tickers are great on Fridays, right? So if you're not going to be trading SPX, right? It's fishy even then.
Yeah, well, even then, the issue is that Charm is it's mostly expired. It's mostly gone by Friday. There is more volume typically on those tickers on Fridays, but it's not. It is nothing compared to SPX 0 DTE. So,
agreed.
All right. Do you have time for one more, or do we want to go?
I think we had a
wanna
request
go,
for NVIDIA. Let's maybe quickly do, I know we got 10
NVIDIA?
minutes almost for the markets,
When
or
is
15
NVIDIA
minutes.
earnings?
Not for a few weeks.
Okay.
Do you want to do some here? Let's quickly do it.
We
I've
could
got it
look at
up.
it, but I think is it before or after the election?
Let's give me 1 second here. I can tell you, NVIDIA. It is after the elections.
All right. So NVIDIA is going to be a little bit less confidence in our read just because of the whole election dynamic. But I mean, I guess we could look at it.
Let's look at the Vana here. So, woo, look at that. Those green.
So it looks like
These are
slow
puts.
advance.
Yeah, slow advance again with, I mean, 150 is clearly the target here. This is by no means a tomorrow kind of thing, or even a this week, just to call out. But yeah, I mean, 150, it looks like this is where they want to take price over time. Prior to that, 145 and 140 are big.
It might be like
This one,
148 or so. Yeah, 150.
yeah,
You're probably right. But yeah, again, though, NVIDIA being one of the largest contributors to SPX, I would be, and the fact that post-election vol is probably crazy. I haven't looked at it, but post-election vol is probably, again, elevated. And so I'd be careful, really counting on that. But the one thing NVIDIA does pop out to me is it looks a lot like SMH.
yeah, yes, it does.
Again, that no arbitrage rule really does something. But all right, so I think I don't know if we have any more. I guess we're good. We're good on.
Yeah, I'm looking at the
requests,
chat.
so.
I don't see any other requests. for
Excellent,
us.
good. So we satisfied our customers, right?
Hey, we are. We're here to please the audience, right? So I hope we please the audience with our individual ticker reviews here today. So earnings are coming up. There's a lot of fun coming over the next couple of weeks with options. So, and then you got the elections, as you've alluded to multiple times here. Lots of volatility, folks. Be safe out there. Be careful.
It's going to be erratic.
Yeah.
It'll be erratic till the election. It'll be hard to really pin down, but after the election, I think that volatility shall commence.
Capital preservation is what I'll call that.
All right, Jay, take it easy. Good seeing you.
You too,
and everybody, may Volland help you trade. May Volland help you with your future trading ventures.